Hello everyone, welcome to the new video, and in this video I am going to discuss about something advanced in Python, and this is our last video for the Python course. So in this video we will discuss about OOPS. OOPS means Object Oriented Programming. So let us start our video so that you can understand like what is exactly the OOPS is. So firstly, what is OOPS? So OOPS is the Object Oriented Programmings. This is one level up in this Python language, and this is the most asked thing in the interviews for internship or any type of job placements. So how this OOPS help us? So this help us to make projects which can deal with the real world scenarios. This means that we can deal with real world problems, real world things by using this OOPS method, which I'm going to discuss further in this video. And there are two important things in OOPS, that is class and object. So this is very important to know that what is class and what is object, because whole OOP revolves around these two words. So first let me tell you about the class. So like we create a class just like a class in our school. So there is a class and we define some things related to class, and then we create objects. So whatever the values we will define in the class, it will same for all the objects. That is, it will same for all the students. Like if a teacher is teaching in a classroom, then it is then that teacher is teaching equally for all the students. If the name of the class is class 12th, then it is same for all the students. So this is how we create a class, we define some things inside our class, and then it becomes same for all the objects. Now first let me tell you about like how this class forms. So first we write a word class. This help us to create any class, and then we give the name of the class, and then we write colon, and then we write anything which we want to write inside this. So class and name of class. And the most important thing to remember is that always the name of the class will start by the first letter in uppercase. This is our first code of this video, and this is the most simplest code which I have taken just to tell you that how we make class and how we make objects. So my first line is class student. So class is the word which is used to define the classes, and student is the name of the class. And see that I have written S of student in capital letter. So this is what you have to mind. And then I have mentioned three things inside my class, that is name, roll number and grade. These three things will be same for every student, as I discussed by taking an example a little moment before. That is the name of the class, like class 12th, or a teacher teaching in the class. So these are the things of a class which remain same for every student. Similarly, these three things will be same for every student. Like now in the sixth line I have written stu1 is equals to student. So stu1 is my first object, and like we can take it as the first student. So there is a classroom, and stu1 is our first object, or I can relate it as stu1 is our first student in our classroom. So now stu1 is equals to student. So student is our class name, and then we have written the parenthesis so that we can access our class for this object. And now we can use our class and everything inside our class for this object, that is stu1. Then in the seventh line I have written print stu1. Now I'm going to run my program, and you can see this is our output. So this is the address or position where our stu1 is located in our class. That is, where is our object in our class. So this is the stu1. Now you can also print the name of that student, grade of this that student, and the roll number of that student. So I have written print stu1 dot name. So whatever you have to print related to your object, you have to write the object name and then dot, and then the thing which you want to print in your output. So I have written stu1 dot name. Similarly, in the eighth line I have written print stu1 dot roll number, and in the ninth line I have written print stu1 dot grade. Now I'm going to run this program, and you can see that the name, roll number and grade, everything is occur in our output. Now I have made one more student. So now there are two students in our class. So stu1 and stu2. So these are the two objects, and our class is student. And now I have written the similar things for stu2 also, that is print stu2 name and then roll number and then grade. So everything is same for both the students. And now when I will run my program, you can see that the name, grade and the roll number of both the students are same. So this is what I have said before, that whatever you will write inside your class, it will remains same for every student. So either you make 2 student or you make 100 student, the name will be Jay and the roll number will be 21 and grade will be A. So obviously this is not a good thing to have a same information for every object. Like it is not possible that 100 students of a class have same name. So this is not possible, and also this is not an ideal case to have same things for objects, because it may be possible that different objects may have different type of information to be stored inside them. So we have to make something like this so that we can store different type of informations for different type of objects. Like for example, we have to make such a thing so that we can give different name to our different object, that will be our different students, that is stu1, stu2 and stu3 and so on. So now we are going to make something like this. So now we have to know about constructor. So what is constructor? Generally when we make any class, like when we write any code using classes and objects, then a function is very important to be made inside our class, that is underscore underscore init underscore underscore parenthesis. This is the function which is necessary for every class, and now this function is called the constructor. This means that constructor is a very compulsory thing to be present inside any type of classes. And users generally make constructor, and if also a user is not making any constructor, then Python by default give a constructor so that we can apply different type of things for our object by using the class. Generally there are two type of constructors: default constructor and parameterized constructor. So the first constructor is default constructor. So this is the constructor which I discussed a little moment before, that if a user is not making any type of constructor, then Python give a constructor which is known as default constructor. So it executes automatically and we don't have to make this constructor in our class. And then it contains only one parameter. So the thing which you have to remember is the default constructor contains only one parameter, that is self, and the parameterized constructor can contain more than one parameter, that is other than self. And if you want to store different information for different objects, then we use the parameterized constructor. And generally a user make this constructor according to their use by giving two or more parameters inside the parenthesis. Now I'm going to explain that what is this self parameter. So this self parameter refers to the object. Like if we are making our first object like stu1, then this self parameter refers to that object. Or we can say that stu1 is equals to the self. So this is what the self parameter means. And you can also write stu1 at the place of self, but generally every coder writes self here for their basic and useful purposes. So I also have written self here, but you can also write anything else. Like you can write your object name also at the place of self. So generally default parameter come by itself, like it is by default, and also a user make it. So it is all up to you. And we give self parameter inside the parenthesis so that we can use the different types of information which is written inside the class for our object. So you can see in this code we have not given any type of constructor, but Python by default has taken the init function by itself. That is, it has taken the default constructor by itself. And that is the reason that we can access the informations inside our class for our stu1. This is the example of default constructor. So in the first line I have written class student to make my class whose name is student, and then in the second line I have met the function def underscore underscore init and underscore underscore, and in the parenthesis I have given the parameter self. So this is my function init, and whenever we will give self as the only parameter inside our init function, then this constructor or this function will be called our default constructor. And whenever we will give more parameters other than self, then it will become a parameterized constructor. So now here we have made the default constructor, but also if we will not make it, it will come by default. But here I have to show you, that is why I have made here. And also I have written inside this function, that is print, and in parenthesis student class constructor called. So this is the print function which I have used to show you that how we can access a default constructor for different purposes also. So now when I will call my student, class for my new object, that is for my object is stu1, and then I will run my program, and you can see that here our print function worked and it gave us the output student class constructor called. So this is how a default constructor looks. Now we are going to see an example of parameterized constructor. And as we have not made any type of new constructor for our use, for so to give different information for different objects, our every object is giving us the same output, that is which is written inside our class, because we have only the default constructor here. So now I am going to make a constructor so that our different object can have different type of informations. So this is our example, and you can also make a separate default constructor and your own constructor, that is your parameterized constructor, but I have made both as the same constructor. Like you can write both of them separately, but we don't need to write them separately because we have to make our code look very effective. So class student is our first line, that is we are defining a class whose name is student. And then in the second line, I have written def and underscore underscore init underscore underscore parenthesis. And inside the parenthesis, I have given three parameters. And self is the always parameter, that we have to give always self as the parameter, because without giving self as a parameter, we can't access any of the information inside our class for our students, that is our objects. So we have to give self as our first parameter always. And now I have given name as the second parameter and age as the third parameter. And then inside this function, I have written self.name is equals to name and self.age is equals to age. So I have told you that if we have to use our name and age like different type of variables, so we have to write like the object name dot the variable. So we have written self.name because self is also our object. It is not necessary to use the same things two times. Like I have written self dot name is equals to name and self dot age is equals to age. So name and age is coming two times. So it is not necessary. You can use another name for your parameters. Like you can write full name at the place of name. So you can write self dot name is equals to full name. This will tell the Python that the name of the object, that is the name of the self, is stored inside the parameter full name. This is how it works. So it is not necessary to write the same things, but generally it make our confusion a little less. That is why we write same things at both the places. Now when we will make objects, like I have made in the sixth line, that is stu1 is equals to student, and in the parenthesis I have given two arguments, that is j and 21. And why? So this is because we have given three parameters inside our function, inside our init function. So also we have to call that class by giving the similar arguments. We don't have to give the argument for self parameter because self is the object and we have written the name of the object, that is stu1. So we don't have to give argument for self, and we have to give two arguments that will be for the name and age parameter. So when I have called my class for the first object, that is stu1, so I have written j as the argument for name parameter and 20 for and 21 for the age parameter. This means that the name of stu1 object is j and age is 21. Now as I want the name of stu1 and the age of stu1 in my output, so I have written print so that it come in our output, and in the parenthesis self.name. So this is how we can access the name, and self.age for accessing the age. And now whenever we will run this code, this will give us the name and age of our stu1 object. And similarly we have made the second object, that is stu2, and then assignment operator and then student, and in bracket now we have given a different data for our another student, that is stu2, or we can say our another object. So now I have given Raj as my name and 22 as my age. So this is a different information other than the stu1. So now again I have written print stu2.name and print stu2.age to print the name and age of the second object in my output. Similarly, you can make more than two objects, and you can also give different name and age to your object, and you can also print it in your output. Now I am going to run my program, and here you can see that all the print function have given us the output, And yes, our output is Jay, 21, Raj, and 22. So this is how we can give different information for different objects. That is, we can store different type of information or data for different type of objects, and also we can print it by writing the object name and dot and then whatever we want to access. So some students can get confused, like whatever I have said in my previous example. That is, we can make two separate constructors, like we can make a default constructor and as well as a parameterized constructor together. So here I have taken the example so that you cannot get confused. And now, so the first line is class student, and then in the second line I have written def underscore underscore init underscore underscore and in the parenthesis self, and then I have written print student class constructor called, and then def underscore underscore init and again underscore underscore and in the parenthesis self, name and age, and again I have given self dot name is equals to name and self dot age is equals to age. Here I have used the same thing, but also you can change your parameters name. And then in the ninth line I have met the object, that is stu1 is equals to student, and in the parenthesis j comma 98, and then print stu1 dot name and print stu1 dot age, and similarly I have met the second object, that is stu2. So I think everyone can understand because everything I have explained in my previous two examples. Here I have made only the change, that is I have made the two parameters separately. Now I'm going to run my program and you can see the output. So it is same like the previous one, that is J98 and Raj 22. So now your question should be like, why our output do not contain a student class constructor called, because we have also made a separate parameter, that is the default parameter in which I have used the print function for this line. So why it is not coming? Now I am going to tell you the reason. So keep this reason safe in your mind for every time because this is very important. So whenever you call a class for any type of object, then you have to give the arguments like the parameters or similar to your parameters in your class. So now the class will be called according to your arguments. Like there are two constructors here, and in the first constructor, I have given self as the only parameter, and in the second constructor, I have given three parameters and two excluding the self. So now, when I have called my class for the stu1 and stu2, then I have given two arguments in my parenthesis when I have called the class. So now, only the second parameter will run. The first parameter will not work for our object because we have given two arguments in our parenthesis. And also, we don't have to give arguments for self parameter. I told this before because we have given the name of object in the starting of the line, that is stu1 and stu2, so we don't have to give the arguments. So if you are giving three parameters inside your parenthesis, then you have to give two arguments inside the class you have called for your object. So again I am saying the number of constructors you have met inside your class doesn't matter. The thing which matters is the number of arguments you have given inside the parenthesis when you are calling your class for your object. So you have to give the arguments according to the parameter of the class which you want to use for your object. Again, if you will write like this, like if you will give the same number of parameters in both the constructor, and now also you have given two arguments when you have called the class for your object, so it is perfect according to both the constructors. But now also it will not work and it will give the same output what we have gained in the last code, by the last code. So why? Because when you make two or more constructors with the same number of parameters and you also give arguments according to that parameters, only that constructor will work which is in the last position. Like our second constructor is below the first one, that is why the second constructor will work and the first constructor will not work. And also this is not looking cool or effective, and it will not impress any of your senior coder, because if you have to give the same number of parameters in both the constructor, then it will be better if you make a single constructor like this and you give everything inside your this single constructor. Like here I have made only one constructor, that is here I have defined only single init function, and inside that function I have given self, name and age as my parameters, and then I have given the print function for printing that line, and also I have written self.name is equals to name and self.age is equals to age. So this is now going to be give us the perfect output which we want. So now I'm going to run this code, and you can see that now we are gaining the line and also the name and age of our objects. Now the next important thing is attribute, that is the data we can say. So there are two types of attribute in our code: class attribute and object attribute. Also we call instance. So object and instance both are same, so we can say object attribute or instance attribute. The data which we store inside the class, or we can say the attributes which we give inside our class, are the class attributes, and these attributes remain same for every object we have made. And the attributes which we make inside the parameterized constructor, that attributes are object attributes, because all these type of attributes hold different type of value for different object. This was our first example, and in this example I have mentioned three things, that is name, roll number and grade. These three data are the attributes that are the class attributes, because these three attributes will remain same for every type of object. And also I have discussed this, so I am just reminding you by again visiting the example. And now in this example we have used the name and age attribute inside our parameterized constructor. So these are the object attribute, and this will hold different type of values for different type of object. The next important point is we can also make our own functions. Like, it is not necessary that a class can only hold constructors only. That is, it is not necessary that class can contain only init functions. It can also contain functions which are user defined. That is, we can also make our own functions for our need. Now I'm going to give you an example in which I will discuss the user defined function inside our class, and also I will discuss a little example or something about our attribute. So this is the example, and in this example the first line is class student, and then I have taken a variable college underscore name, and inside this variable I have stored the value xyz college. So this is my class attribute, because this variable is written inside our class and it is not inside any type of constructor or any type of function. So it is inside the class. So this is a class attribute, and it will, and the data which we have stored inside this variable will remain same for every object. And now I have made a constructor, and this is a parameterized constructor, and I have written def underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and in the parenthesis self name marks, and then print student constructor, student class constructor called self dot name is equals to name and self dot marks is equals to marks. So I think everyone can understand these lines because I have discussed this before. And then I have made a new function here, and this is a user defined function because this is made by me according to my use. So now I have written def show underscore marks, and inside the parenthesis I have written self. So it is very necessary to write self inside our parenthesis, inside the parenthesis of our function, so that we can use the attributes which we have made for our object, like the name and marks. And inside this function I have written print, and then inside the double quotes marks of, and then self dot name, because I want to print here the name of that object, that is the name of that student, and then is inside the double quotes, and then again self dot marks, because here I want to print the marks of that object, that is our student. So I want to print marks of student name is marks, whatever the marks will be that student will score. So this is what I made inside my show underscore marks function. So this function will give me the marks of the student, that is our object. And now I have made the object. The first object is stu1. So I have written stu1 is equals to student, and inside the parenthesis I have to give two arguments. Why? Because inside my constructor I have given three parameters. So self parameter do not need any type of argument or value. So we have given two arguments, that are the two values of the name and marks parameter. So j and 98 are the values. And then I have written print stu1.name to print the name of the student, and then print stu1.marks, and then print stu1.college underscore name. This will give me the name, marks and college name of that student. That is our first object. Then also I have called my function. So I have written the name of the object, that is stu1, and then dot, and then the function name. So I have written stu1 dot show underscore marks and parenthesis. So this will print the marks of that student with his or her name. And then again I have met the next student, and I have written the same things for this student also. So these are my two students, or I can say these are my two objects, that is stu1 and stu2. You can also make different objects, like you can also make more than two objects or more than two students, like according to your need or according to your experiments. So now I'm going to run my program and you can see the output. So here we have the line student class constructor called, and the name of student, and then the marks of student, and then the name of the college. And then we have the line marks of J is 98. So this is our whole output for both the objects. And this is how we can use a constructor, and we can also make a user defined function. So this is how everything works. Here we have written student.college underscore name. That is, the difference is in only the 16th line and the 21st line. So we can also use the class attribute by writing the name of the class dot and then the name of the attribute. So we can use the class attribute by two ways. That is by writing the name of the object and then the name of the attribute, and also by writing the name of the class and the name of the attribute. So these are the both examples I have shown you, and also we can run this program and you can see that the output will be same. So this is how the class attribute works, and we can use class attributes by two ways. Now the last important point for this video is, in our OOPS there are four important things, or we can say there are four important pillars of this OOPS, that is the object oriented programmings. So these four pillars are abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So here I have ended my Python course, and I have explained every important thing in this course. And if you are in class 12th or you are learning Python language just for your knowledge, so it is very enough for your knowledge, and I have given you a very enough content. And now if you want to go more deeper, then you can access different type of batches for your more skill or for your more learning inside the Python language. So this is what I want to discuss in my whole Python course, and I hope that everyone have understood everything perfectly. And if you have any type of problem, then you can ask me in the comment sections, and also you can tell me if I have missed anything, then I will solve your problem also. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have worked well and practiced well. So continue practicing, and also practice is very important. So continue practicing, and you will become definitely a brilliant coder. So thank you for watching, and follow for more.